I think the most beautiful thing that can happen in a disaster is the community growth after. The bonding that happens, the reset that happens. I've watched organizations not sit at the table because of egos and fighting. And then when the disaster happened, all egos were off, all hats were off. Everyone was a clean slate at the table with their hearts. And they had one common denominator. What do we need to grow this community back together? And we would move forward and everyone would stay in their lane and we would do that. So we had to engage with private enterprise to say, this is your business community. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I am really excited. I say I'm really excited every time because I'm really excited. I'm just that kind of person. I love interviewing people that make a difference in the world. But today's guest is really special. She's a friend. She's a mentor. She's a good old country girl. She comes from good old country folks down in southern Alberta, but she's the epitome of putting local first, but thinking big. Every time I have a conversation with her, her thinking big is beyond what you can imagine. But it's so empowering, these conversations, because she has three things that she really, really believes in, and she did it for me. Not all heroes wear capes is my cup that I am actually for Jodi today. And I speak a lot about Jodi. Her name's Jodi. I snuck it in there. So she invests in people is her number one thing. She doesn't care the age. She just invests in people. And she invested in me once. And because of that investment, I have served on all of Canada's largest disasters, natural disasters and man-made disasters. I've made a huge impact with thousands of business owners because one person invested in me and she put some training into me and she believed in me. And that was Jodi. So the other thing that Jodi brings forward is she really believes community grows community. I have watched Jodi have disruptive conversations. Not everybody likes Jodi when she's in the room because she holds you accountable to some really big thinking conversations. The other thing is, my favorite part of her thinking is people closest to the problem always have the solutions. So today, my goal, Jodi, for you today is I want to empower people to think differently. For years, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your leadership. I often refer to you as my favorite boss. Why? Is because you ask questions and you listen. You changed my life. And I'm very vulnerable about my mental well-being. I am very successful. I'm very happy with life, but I make my mental well-being a priority every day.
Good.
And it's because of these three books. Asking Great Questions. Aileen Gibb, you invested in me. I'm going to give a plug to her. You invested in me once. And you sent me to her and you said, Angela, I think you'll serve better by looking after you first and go learn some tools of how to do that. And what is really exciting about that is people will claim to be good leaders. You saw something in me. At the time, you were leading business recovery. We were in High River. At the time, it was Canada's largest natural disaster. And I was burnt out as the recovery officer, and you came in to now bring the community to the world on the map. And the first thing you did was invest in me. And this training, any of you listening out there, Elaine Gibb, leading by asking questions, I just can't thank you enough. I want to give you an opportunity. Tell me your favorite. Tell me about this program. Tell me why you live by this.
Aileen changed my life, so I'm super happy to have passed it forward, Ange. I was in a corporate role and I had gone, actually, I'm going to be very transparent about my mental health. At the time, I had two little boys at home and I had gone to a therapist because something wasn't feeling right. And it was right before Christmas and the therapist said to me, I think you're having an existential crisis. And I'm an academic, so I went home and I studied up what that meant for 2 weeks. And I went back to see her after Christmas. And she said, I think you're okay now. And I walked out of that room and I started crying. And I thought, okay, smarty pants, you convinced her, but you're not fixed. So then I went out for lunch with a friend of mine and was talking about where I was at. And she recommended Aileen. So I invested in a full day of coaching with Aileen, made some very important, pivotal decisions in my career and my life. And then I thought, wow, that experience, I've never ever been listened to like she listened to me. And then I spent the next 6 or 7 years learning under her tutelage. So
Oh, beautiful. And thank you for looking after you because you really make a difference in the world.
thank
Aileen, if you're listening, thank you very much for your work. One of the things Aileen said to me was in the training, I was there for a weekend in the beautiful Canmore, like it was like a retreat too. But when I say you invested, I would say you broke some rules and you didn't care. And if you had to answer them to your higher ups, that you would have said, no, this is the right thing to do for this person here. Because when you're in disaster recovery, working on the ground, sometimes the leaders that are in the office and not boots on the ground, they make rules and decisions and they don't understand. And you knew this person's 24/7 involved here and needs to step out and look after herself. I'm working with the economic developers of Alberta right now, bringing in some mental well-being training for people who serve in business recovery, and it's crucial because I remember those moments. So you're a trailblazer for that. But what was really interesting to lead into our conversation here is when you said you felt you were heard. This is what it's all about. Let's get back to basics. People just want to be heard. Any age, any child, any employee. Like if you are a good leader, ask yourself, do your employees feel heard? Do they feel like they're contributing? And that's what you did for me. And I got the training to ask questions to the business owners so I could let them be heard.
Mhm.
And we recovered together.
Yeah.
And we build communities together. This is the foundation of what you teach, what you lead by, what you live by. I watch you do it just with friends. I watch you connect neighbors and stuff together. But in your opinion, when we talk about community growth and we spend all of this tax money, local government, provincial government, federal government, all on growing communities, what frustrates you? What do you think we could do better at?
Well, my first reaction is I think we have to be careful of that word growth. I do remember this when we were in High River working together. I remember the mayor saying, "Why is it that we think we always have to grow?" And I think that's a really, really important question. So if we're measuring community success or a thriving community, I think we need to start with that instead. How do we create a thriving community? I think grow is just it's just too loaded. So what frustrates me is often, again, we'll start from that growth place and we'll bring experts in from outside and think that the expertise has to come from somewhere else. And I think it's been proven for me that if you show up and invite people in the community to show up and you give them space, the ideas will come.
Yes. And to your second point of the people closest to the problem will find the solutions. So when they show up with a different lens. That's my favorite thing. So in economic development, when I'm trained, I was president, International Association for Business Retention and Expansion International. When I listened to what other communities in the world were doing on having business owners show up to communicate, to be heard, I couldn't believe the solutions that were coming. So I felt in rural Alberta and in Alberta and in Canada, where we're doing the same BRE is the acronym, surveys, communication styles, and where we're getting the same answers all along. It's like rinse and repeat. AI would have a heyday with economic development right now. And when I learned different lenses of the way people are asking different conversations, like you said, they show up. So I love that you say it's also not always about growing because less is more sometimes. Even with our own, right? They talk about the more money you make, the more you spend. Do we
Yep.
really need to go get more jobs? Do we really need to grow a community bigger? Is bigger better? Because then we have more infrastructure, we have more people using the pool, we have blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. Do you have any comments or feedback to the audience, to anybody that's serving municipalities right now or growing rural communities? Do you have any feedback that you could share? Also, again, on a disruptive conversation, because I don't want
Hmm.
just, I want to do things differently so we can do things better, on how to sustain thriving communities, how to lead towards thriving communities.
When I think about community growth, and certainly in the context of economic development, the thing I think about is the right fit. So, when you're maybe speaking with businesses that want to come to the community, I think the community needs to really spend some time and think about what is the right fit for our community. So in some instances, for example, I think we like to think right now that everything is plentiful. So water, we've got lots and lots of water. I would be very concerned about businesses that use a lot of water coming to Southern Alberta. And I really think that the communities need to take stock and understand what's special about what they have, what maybe is limited, and what they want to protect. And I think they do that. I think, when I look at my last role was in the energy business. And when I was looking at some of the renewable energy projects, there are mechanisms for community to show up and give their feelings on an energy project in their environment. So I think that it has to be right fit. And when we talk about growth, not just for the sake of it.
In the past, with Investment Alberta or any investment in any community, so I'm going to represent local, but because I've been in so many international associations, I'm going to also speak to this is all over the world. Supply and demand. It comes down to what's the new demand. And so business owners are driving tech right now.
Mhm.
And so now everybody is chasing after the tech industry, and they're claiming that their province and they're claiming that their state or their community is the best for green energy products, sustainable projects, and they're also claiming that they're the best for investment for technology.
Hmm.
But you and I have had some conversations that I'd like to have now about how do we really look at the return on that investment instead of it just being measured on growth and revenue. So we usually on growth, it's usually about jobs. This will bring, if you see any investment lead marketing sponsor ad right now or on social media, it says, welcome to Google or Amazon data center, whatever it is, X amount of jobs. And then we all know the non-residential tax base it'll bring in. Done. Good job. Brought them into the community. Where are we 10 years later? I think of these solar panels, being a cowgirl, being a steward of the land. And then I look in other countries that are built them on roofs and built them up so you can still farm the land underneath. And here we are in Alberta. And I can't believe when I drive by prime Southern Alberta farmland and it's now contaminated soil with solar panels on top of it. Did we really look at the sustainability? What are your thoughts of all this?
Well, being a little bit more general than that specific example, again, Ange, at the risk of sounding repetitive, I do think it's about asking questions. So I think we have to remember, going back to technology for a moment, we've been working with technology since the Industrial Revolution began. So what is the purpose of technology improvements? It's efficiency gain. And so when I look at data centers being built sort of all over, they have to be built. We have more and more data. They absolutely have to exist. They do take up land. They do take up power. They do take up water. And so I would just ask questions. First of all, I would understand what other economic drivers might be coming to my community that are going to put strain on the same resources. And do we have any limitations? And then I think what we need to do is, much like Indigenous communities, look forward 7 generations and think about what's going to happen with data centers in the next 20, 50 years. Well, if I'm Google and Amazon, I'm going to be continually using technology to make my life more efficient as well. So some of those operations jobs that accompany data centers, they're going to be able to be done remotely. And so just know that. So whatever number of jobs we might be talking about today, in 20 years, that'll probably look very different. So I would like to see much more, rather than looking at a win of today, we need to look a lot further out. And a good example, actually, and I mean zero disrespect in this conversation, but if you look at when Cargill came to the High River area in the 80s, Cargill changed the face of High River as a community. We required more housing that wasn't necessarily anticipated. There were many, many, many different cultures coming to work at that plant. So we had English as a second language, huge requirements in the school system, and that wasn't necessarily anticipated and prepared for. And so I just think there needs to be a longer term, wider lens on these things and understanding all the impacts and all the benefits.
Oh gosh, I love this. Thank you. So, in economic development language, to anybody that is supporting, if you're a business organization, a government organization, just anything to support rural communities, please listen to what she is saying. The terms that we use are regional collaboration. Be a nice neighbor.
Yeah.
How do you be a nice neighbor? You ask questions, is what you're saying. Ask questions to your counties beside you. Ask questions to the neighboring communities beside you. So in business, we teach business plans. We have a conversation. As in project management, we have kickoff meetings. We have charts, we have timelines, we have budgets, we have all these things. Why are we not doing that with building communities? So let's use Cargill as an example of it coming in, bringing all the players to the table and saying, what's the SWOT analysis for everybody? What's the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats here? What's our risk management?
Well, and my sort of I think my urge is to the citizens of the communities to show up and ask questions and ask people for layman's terms. So, with all due respect, Ange, economic developers and business people use language that the common person may not always understand fully. So, it needs to be a very plain language discussion, and the citizens need to ask these questions. What is the resource impact? Like,
Yeah.
what is the benefit? For how long? Tell me about 30 years from now. Ask people to think it through. It's your community. You live there. And so it has to fit for you. And I think that's my biggest message, Ange, would be less to the people that are generating the opportunities, more to the community members. You need to participate.
Thank you. Thank you. You got to see some friendship conversation between us. With no disrespect, Angie, that means you're wrong, Angie. I love it. Yeah, and if we had a glass of wine right now, her hands really get in there too. She's like, no disrespect, Angie, but do better. But I love it. Yeah, and I love the realness of this because I challenge people when I bring them on. I'm like, stop feeding me all this professional stuff. I want raw, real conversations.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing this podcast. I want to make an impact to growing the world better. And I want to start it with our countries working together. I mean, it's not my level, but that's my wish list. That's my dream. And making the world a better place, a beautiful place, a peaceful place. And then down to our countries, down to our provinces, our states, down to our communities, and then in our own backyards. How do we engage better to our citizens?
Well, and the other thing I'd really like to say is that, I don't know, in my experience, when citizens show up to a community engagement, they're often already loaded with anger. And so I think it goes back to what we very first talked about around listening. So come with open minds, listen to each other. You have to get back to some of those basics. Don't,
Yeah.
Showing up with anger actually isn't that super productive.
Yes, if I could put a wish list out there, show up with a clean slate.
Yeah.
Think of your future. Think of the next generation. Come with a blank canvas and listen. We're going to listen to you, but listen, get educated and empowered. But when they come in to make a point to be heard, I also want to ask them the opportunity to contribute to growing a better community with us together. We need to do a better job of how we communicate to our citizens.
I would start with young kids. We aren't, and again, I have a lot of feelings and thoughts around education. We don't we don't help kids understand community involvement early enough, intentionally, with intentionality. I mean, we don't intentionally not train them. So they just, and you couldn't pay me to be an 18, 20-year-old right now because I think it is difficult. They're getting messages all the time that make things seem hopeless. So I get it. I really do get it. I think we need to ask some questions. I think we need to sit in a room, or we also have to understand how. Yeah, we also have to understand where everybody is. Like, the way a 20-year-old might be engaged in a dialogue will be very different than the way I will be. And so
Yeah.
this is why technology matters. Like, these guys, you can ask them questions on their phones, and often they'll be more comfortable answering through that mechanism than in conversation. So I think we need to be creative. I think we need to really put ourselves in the shoes of the people we want to hear from, and empowerment, and I mean, we know this. Empowering them to use their voice means we got to ask some questions and shut up and listen. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that's happening enough.
That's what I want to get across and get out of the way.
Yeah.
Like when you say people closest to the problem have the solutions, you and I have seen this in disaster recovery. The most beautiful thing that can happen in a disaster is the community growth after. The bonding that happens, the reset that happens. I've watched organizations not sit at the table because of egos and fighting. And then when the disaster happened, all egos were off, all hats were off. Everyone was a clean slate at the table with their hearts. And they had one common denominator. What do we need to grow this community back together? And we would move forward and everyone would stay in their lane and we would do that. So we had to engage with private enterprise to say, this is your business community. This is your business community. What do you need? And that's why that stakeholder engagement. But I look back at some of the things we could have done better of the how we communicated and the why.
Yeah, I think that is the message overall. It is complicated. Like, every audience is different in our day, and we have to be more mindful and thoughtful of what the audience needs, not what we're comfortable with. We need to do it from what they need to hear, not what's easy for us.
Yes. So many times I participate as a support person at an engagement conversation. So with a communications team, and they talk about what they think is best, but it's never broken down to the target audience. I never see there's this age group, there's this age group, and there's this age group. Because if we were really, really going to go after KPIs on engagement, we would have to have a different communication strategy for each audience.
Yeah, and I think from an economic development perspective, Angie, is that if we're looking at opportunities in the community for tomorrow, who are the ones that will benefit from those opportunities? What do they want to see? And how are we talking to them?
Well, and what happens is them and us. So then I talk about my younger generation right now. They're like, "Oh, you guys just go ahead and do whatever you want. It's old boys school. It's the." And I in community when I wear the hat as I'm the liaison. Thank you for bringing your investment, or thank you for opening up your business, or considering us for investment. Thank you for expanding your business in our community. What do you need? And I start to have, because of the training that I took, what do you need? I start to ask the questions. They start to build trust with me. And then I bring that in. And I've been fortunate that the communities that I select to work and represent, they don't say no. If they need to, they say no, because of this way. And sometimes red tape is municipal government acts or federal government acts, or sometimes it's for safety. You have to communicate it back and forth, right? And then sometimes it's, well, no, right now, but rules can be changed. I don't believe in rules, right? I see rules changed all the time.
Mhm.
Pivot, adapt. We teach it to business owners, and government needs to do it as new investment comes in. So I really hope, I love this conversation because we can do better. We're going to disrupt a few people. We're probably going to have some people that say we don't know what we're talking about, and you're allowed to say that. You're allowed to challenge us on that. But Jodi and I have served on different hats and together. Jodi, you were involved in technology 10 years ahead of everybody else. You were a trailblazer as a woman. I'm very proud of you too. You're a trailblazer. It wasn't easy. It was very disruptive with a lot of learning lessons at that time. And you just keep growing from each scenario, making a difference for us.
Thank you.
So we're talking a lot about community. I want to start, like, what I specialize in my podcast, what my target audience is to support entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I really believe that our education system I participated about 5 years ago in a study done by the federal government to the top 10 employees, wanted to know what the top 10 employees had to say across Canada of what they needed for employees. And there was a report that came out, and I participated in the Southern Alberta one. And at the time, the top 10 across Canada, but then in the isolated area or in the community, the top 10 that would come out would say, the education school doesn't do anything for us. And the tech schools, the blue collar schools, because the technology was moving so fast of whatever it was that they were needing for their operations, that they were doing in-house training.
Mhm.
So this was, for me, participating in growing a vibrant community, a sustainable community. Workforce was very different, but the education system hadn't caught up to it yet. So we needed to get private enterprise connected to the next generation, or for the seniors that didn't have a pension, that they needed to get some training into them so that they could keep working, because all they could do right now as you're getting older was the retail jobs, and there was different things that they could maybe do at home, but they needed a little bit of training. There was a massive gap.
Mm.
So where I'm going with this is we can disrupt and have conversations on so many levels with government, but the business owners are the backbone of the community. If you the pulse of a community is the downtown, because of the experience. If you don't have a downtown, you're just an industrial park. But a community has a pulse. And the brand and the feeling of the community usually comes in the downtown core in some way, of whether there's a river that runs through your community or a community asset that happens. And it starts back in the olden days. In the very, very olden days, it was when the railroad would go through. That's when we started to set up shop. Communities were set up shop alongside rivers as trading posts, right? So that's how these downtowns, if we look back of how they've started to form and evolve, that we are now taking business to online. And we're now taking him into our home-based businesses. The major and minor home business licenses are skyrocketing in communities, and they are just as important as the downtown. How do you think that we get the community citizens to realize the importance of supporting local small business on all different avenues, from the downtown to the manufacturing and the industrial to the agricultural neighbor to the online home-based?
Hmm. So I think my first reaction is we have to reimagine everything. And so, as we saw after the pandemic, the city downtown cores were changed forever, because the big buildings, the big towers that were required before we knew we could work remotely aren't so much required. So you've got all this space. So landlords have to reimagine what vibrancy in their space looks like. I think the same is true with small town downtowns. Is like, there aren't going to be as many brick and mortar stores. And if there are, they will be offering, or should be offering, unbelievable experiences, because you have to be making it worth someone's time to come out of their house. And that's just the truth. Like, whether it should be or it's wrong, it actually doesn't matter. Like, what is going on today is people are quite comfortable online shopping. And when they go out for dinner or go out for music, they're expecting a good experience. So I think we have to reimagine the compilation of our downtowns. And I think your point, Angie, about businesses at home, those businesses that are at home can be very big business. Like, I am subscribing to a website right now that sells software as a service businesses. So if you imagine, these are people that have written code, that have created a software as a service platform that you can buy from anywhere and sell from anywhere. So I could buy one of those businesses tomorrow. And by the way, you can buy them from $2,000 all the way up, right? And I could scale that thing from my basement and nobody would know. I could employ 50 people in my community also working from their own home, and nobody would know that that business exists in my town. That's the shift. Like, that's the shift. How do we make, and I learned that actually with when I did economic development in High River, and that was 7 years ago, and I was shocked at some of the businesses I learned that existed that I didn't know were in place. So I think we have to widen, and that's, I think, my frustration, Angie. I think rural, smaller towns are still thinking with this hat on that says their business is in the downtown and their industrial areas. It's all over the community, and I don't think we're setting up experiences that welcome all of them.
Don't think we're setting up experiences that welcome all of them. Define that a little bit
I
more for
don't
me.
think we know all those businesses. I don't think we know where they're there. I
Yep.
think, for example, I know one of the things that's very overwhelming for everybody is keeping up with technology. Well, I can guarantee you that someone in your own community knows how to make it work. And if you collaborated with them, they could help your business, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to do more of that, but we got to know that each other is there.
Yeah. So I like, this is one of my props of why I keep this, is because there's the world. This reminds me all the time when I'm business coaching. This is your audience. This is your potential. This is so, like, narrow in now. Where are they? But see how big it is? Like, the world is so big. These are my two go-tos. I'll tell you, the ask the right questions and think global. Shop local, think global, but ask the right questions. It's just this simple. And so when you say that, I think about growing entrepreneurship. I think of how much money, federal, provincial, and locally, we spend on growing entrepreneurship. And I did not know, and I'm award-winning economic development officer. I won EDO of the year for Alberta, and I've been in it for a long time. You're also award-winning with economic development, investment attraction. That was a very special award that you led that team to put High River back. You guys, I'm just going to give a shout out here to her excellent leadership in marketing. High River, they actually considered to dismantle the town. I was involved in those conversations where is it worth rebuilding back up, because we built it on a floodplain. And then two, the name High River. Who's going to invest in High River that just had a massive wipeout flood, and it's going to happen again? And kudos, like, they're still my favorite council to this day because of the above and beyond that they went without compensation. I got to see stuff behind the scenes about these are real community people that stepped up and didn't negotiate extra meetings and extra pay. They just put their work boots on and got to work and got it done. And it's completely mitigated now. It's probably one of the most safest towns in Canada because of the mitigation. Thank you to all levels of government that contributed to it. But Jodi, you told the story of why to invest in High River, and it worked because of the KPIs that you put on it, and it was award winning. You put High River back on the map of consider investing here. And also, one of the other things that you did was you listened. When you came in, I was recovering, and now you are moving them forward, and you listened and you said, we have a technology problem. And you were part of bringing the infrastructure of broadband into the downtown. And there's probably lessons learned in that, but I know it landed one big investment, and just from the story and just from caring, but it was all based off of listening. So, I just want to give a shout out to your work that you did. And I want to pay forward people out there that are listening, that are serving in this space, that it can be done. Don't give up. Don't give up your town, but you need to do it together. But community, we both know community recovers community. Yes, Red Cross brought in $40 million.
Oh.
Yes, the government of Alberta and the federal government of Canada, but we remember the volunteers on the ground. We remember the volunteer committees, the task force, the work that it took, that nobody got paid, that it was all local people, local organizations that were there 10 years later, 5 years later, 2 years later. Those are the ones that did the long term. The other ones come in and they come out. That's why not all heroes wear capes. It's citizens. You citizens, and it's people like you that do that. So, growing entrepreneurship, you just talked about an opportunity about buying a business, home based. Why are we not finding that out as EDOs? Why are we not marketing that? We're not getting, and when I go to these large events in the urban city close to me, they're not talking about this stuff. Are we thinking globally enough? Are we listening to private enterprise about true entrepreneurship opportunities to keep people in our rural communities?
I don't think so.
No, we're not,
No,
because we have to think differently. We have to ask different questions.
yep.
How did you find out about that?
I have a weirdly curious brain. So I don't even, I think I saw an influencer on Instagram. I went and looked her up, and then I ended up finding somebody else I was interested in and watched that on YouTube, and then followed to his website and found this this online hub of software as a service businesses you can buy. So I guess that's actually my point, is that the thing that was most impactful to me in my coaching experience was when Aileen said to me, Jodi, you are 100% responsible for what you have and do not have in your world today. And I took that and I try and instill that in my kids, in anybody I talk to, is that if you want to do something, it's on you. And so we live in this time where I can be sitting in my basement and go on these crazy paths on YouTube and find some really cool resources. Everybody can do that. Anybody can do that. And I think what's awesome is, and I love technology because of what it enables us to do from my basement. But to me, like, everything about entrepreneurship is about solving a problem, right? We're solving a problem, we're creating an opportunity to meet someone's need. And so in today's world, there are just exponential opportunities to solve problems using technology. It's not that technology is the only thing, but I don't think I think our world leapt forward and our systems can't get there yet. And so we have to reimagine.
Wow. So this is how I wish the world would work right now. I'm in government. I'm having conversation with private enterprise, and I just asked you a whole lot of questions on how to do things, and I'm the how. I got to get out of the way. I have to learn and I have to educate myself. This is where social media is positive things for us. When we learn them with good, when we use them with good intent and as learning tools, that it's awesome. Technology is awesome. AI is going to be awesome. But we can also use technology in very sour ways for our mind and for our heart and for our soul. And same thing with AI. That's another show we'll have with you on the scariness of AI. But what you just taught me, what you just said, we have to do things differently. All your language you used. I'm sitting here as administration, as a senior in it, as an expert in it. I feel I have enough experience that I can claim myself in that how can I do this? How? And you know what you just did? Why do we not have entrepreneurial task force committees for our communities made up of all ages? I would love to talk to my high school about entrepreneurship and business. I would love to talk to the age group of 18 to 25 that have decided to start their life in the rural community about entrepreneurship, about all the things that go with entrepreneurship. I'd like to talk to the seniors that are retired, that are looking for a secondary income to stay alive with the cost of living, about entrepreneurship. And I would love to talk to the people who are in an entrepreneurship, different conversation with each of them. So we need to do things differently by asking questions to the right people, to the private enterprise, and that's how we can grow entrepreneurship in our communities. And then we as government figure out the how by listening to the answers.
And I think government needs to understand where they're needed and maybe where they're not. And so I think the community, like, for example, I could sit with somebody and show them what I've learned, which doesn't require government at all. Maybe government helps facilitate that connection,
That's it.
right? But I think this is where the beauty of cross-pollination, like, to me, there's a business owner here in town who she has a storefront. She does not want to do social media. Well, she hired a recent grad and she's doing all her social media. Because why? Because she knows how. And she knows all the channels. And by the way, her friends are who should shop in that store. So that store owner wouldn't be able to authentically communicate on social media to that target audience anyways. And so it's kind of, to me, it's really sit in the strength you have and leverage what people know around you and ask each other for help.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world. And I think we got to evolve with it. And I think we got to leap. We
Yeah.
no time for incremental steps. Go.
Speaking with Jodi, having her on the interview, I knew that we were going to get unstuck on a lot of things because she's not a victim in anything. She listens to people when they're stuck. You have a big heart. You're full of empathy. And you've even coached yourself. You and I have become friends and we help each other out when we're stuck. And we're career women that we want to be amazing moms and we want to be great partners and we want to be all these things. But we have this, our parents did such an amazing job of giving us worldly views and then the brains and the confidence, and we get stuck. We get stuck trying to do it all. So thank you for, you provided opportunities for getting unstuck right now, of owning it yourself. And I really hope this show has played a lot because I think we're going to make a difference in real communities by it. The entrepreneurial task force is something we're not doing. And it's going to be a takeaway that I'm going to. So thank you. I'm going to move it, but I'm going to stay in my lane as government. We facilitate, but we get out of the way. And then if we can provide funding or connect them to grants, but they lead it, they do it. And it's not, I don't want to create myself a job. I don't want to create myself a project. I actually want to have the community create it and have the community have the resources so that they can do it, or the not-for-profits. They can lead it. They can be part of it. And there's so many great things that can come out of that. You know, I'm sitting back here and I'm thinking, we had a BRAC committee, Business Recovery Advisory Committee. We brought everybody in, all the business owners, and then we found out who our top 10 industries were and we still practice it to this day. It's still taught in disaster recovery, but in High River, where you and I serve together, that task force was made up of the top 10 industries in High River. And they shared with us how to recover, what they needed. And then we gave it to our DRP committee. We gave it to our council, all of the information, and all we did was facilitate. We brought in expertise from International Economic Development, Economic Developers of Alberta. We brought in FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Task Force people, to ask the right questions, as we'd never done it. So how do we do this? And we pass it all along, and that's how the recovery plan was made. Lots of learning in there. No one's perfect, but that we cared and we tried. But why did we stop it? Why did we stop the engagement of talking to the entrepreneurs?
I think I wouldn't say there was anything wrong done with that approach. You looked at the existing industry. I think the ad is, what's the emerging industries? What will things look like in 10, 20, 30 years? And just keep that mindset. Because my experience, and this is my learning, is that I think I wasn't looking at a long enough time frame. And I think that, shame on me, communities exist a lot longer than I will. And so you have to be looking with that existing industry and the emerging, and how those are going to shift and what that means to the economy of a community.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed today. I knew I would. I could hardly sleep last night knowing we were going to have this conversation today, because we have very awesome conversations, impactful conversations. And I always wonder how can we move it? How do we move it along right now to get results on this? And the beautiful thing about technology is the podcast. So your and our beliefs are back to basics about human engagement and through conversation. The technology world has brought conversation to the podcast world. And that's why I absolutely love the podcast, because I'm having conversations with people that I can bring to all over the world, is my goal with this, and help grow our communities, help grow our business owners to a better place. So thank you for participating. I am going to have you back on the show because we got lots of more topics to cover. But I like to close my show with, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a community to support a business. And I ask everybody to really, it's not about money. It's about growing your community as a thriving community to support local. And I want to support you, Jodi. I want to reach out and be the community to support you. And I believe in manifestation. So what is your wish list? If you could have a wish list, if you had a dream of something that you could give back, or I want us to all hear it. I want us to all pray, and I want us all to give that to you.
My wish list. Honestly, it's going to sound really simple and I know it's complicated, maybe, but it's for everybody to remember that what we have created, we can change. And so if you want something different, then get at it. And so I think we can spend time fixating on politicians or circumstances that are beyond our control and get frustrated. And what I keep going is look at where you're at and the action you can take. The place to make a difference is right around you. And so just remember that. Like, we created what we've got so far. We can create what we want.
Oh,
Let's start
love it. Entrepreneurs, listen to that. Parents, listen to that. Everybody listen
it.
to what she just said. And Jodi, we will do that for you. We will not put the blame. I believe in my God that's guiding me, and he's guiding me with love. So every mistake I make, I just do better. Don't
Yeah.
be victim. I do take time sometimes, and sometimes I take a lot of time to feel bad for myself. But I get up and I stand up and I get back in the game and I get after what I want. And that's what you're asking of people.
I think we need to celebrate that a lot. And
Yes.
so I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but what I try to embrace is it as a channel for good if we choose to use it that way. So when we do know of people that are taking a stab at creating something new and better, we should be screaming about that.
Yes, let's celebrate ourselves.
Yeah.
That's every time I leave you, I don't need a glass of wine to feel good anymore. I just go for a coffee with Jodi. She goes, hang in there, Ange. You're doing good. So, Jodi, that's what we want to do. I want to make you feel good. You are a beautiful person inside and out. Thank you. And never stop having your disruptive thoughts. And you're a trailblazer for the women coming up. Thank you.
Right back at you.